Good evening, Jamestown, and welcome to your JCTV news update for what was a beautiful Monday. I'm JT Petsch, and let's jump right in. We all remember back in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected as president, an event that for many of us will always be remembered. But what got him to the White House? In large part, it was his revolutionary campaigning methods. Today, the president announced he will be running once more in the 2012 elections. So what tricks will his advisors have up their sleeves? Will we see many of the same methods as before, or will campaigning be changed once again? While those questions remain unclear as of yet, one thing is for sure, it is going to cost a lot of money. Some speculate more than $1 billion will be spent. Obama, however, felt it was important to note that it is not all about the money. But don't be surprised if you find a letter asking for your contributions in the 2012 elections already. In a major reversal, the Obama administration has decided to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed for his role in the attacks of September 11th before a military commission at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and not in a civilian courtroom. Attorney General Eric H. Holder, Jr. announced this afternoon that Mr. Mohammed and 4 other accused conspirators will face charges before a panel of military officers. A law enforcement official said Mr. Holder had wanted to prosecute Mr. Mohammed before a regular civilian court in New York City, but changed his mind after Congress imposed a series of restrictions bearing that the transfer of Guantanamo detainees into the United States. The United States, which long supported Yemen's president even in the face of recent widespread protests, has now quietly shifted positions and has concluded that he is unlikely to bring the required reforms and must be eased out of office, according to the American and Yemeni officials. The Obama administration has maintained the support of President Ali Abdullah Saleh in a private and refrained from directly criticizing him in public, even as his supporters fired on peaceful demonstrators, because he was considered a critical ally in fighting the Yemeni branch of the Al-Qaeda. This position has fueled criticism of the United States in some quarters for hypocrisy for rushing to oust a repressive autocrat in Libya, but not in the strategic allies like Yemen and Bahrain. That position began to shift in the past week, administration officials said. While the American officials had not publicly pressed Mr. Saleh to go, they have told allies that they now view his hold on the office as untenable, and they believe that he should leave. A Yemeni official said that the American position changed when the negotiations with Mr. Saleh on the terms of his potential departure began a little over a week ago. The Americans have been pushing for a transfer of power since the beginning of the negotiations, the official said, but have not said so publicly because they still were involved in negotiations. Those negotiations now center on a proposal for Mr. Saleh to hand over the power to the provisional government led by his vice president until new elections are held. That principle is not in dispute. The Yemeni official said only the timing and mechanism for how he would depart. It does remain in dispute among the student-led protesters, however, who have rejected any proposal that would give power to a leading official to the Saleh government. With the rebels' battlefield fortunes sagging, the 3 men in charge of the Libyan opposition forces were summoned late last week by the ad hoc leadership of the movement to a series of meetings here in the rebel capital. The rebels' army's nominal leader, Abdul Fattah Younis, a former interior minister and friend of Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi, whom many rebels leaders distrusted, could offer little explanation for the recent military stumbles. 2 people with knowledge of the meeting said, making matters worse, the men could hardly stand one another. They included Khalif Haftar, a former general who returned recently from exile in the United States and appointed himself as the rebel field commander, the movement leader said, and Omar el-Harari, a former political prisoner who occupied the largely ceremonial role of the defense minister. They behaved like children, said Fatah Baha, a political science professor who heads the rebel political committee. Little was accomplished in the meetings, the participants said. When they concluded last week, Mr. Younis was still the head of the army and Mr. Harari remained as the defense minister. Only Mr. Haftar, who reportedly refused to work with Mr. Yunus, was forced out. On Sunday, though, in a sign that divisions persisted, Mr. Haftar's son said his father was still an army leader. As the struggle with Colonel Gaddafi threatened to settle into a stalemate, the rebel government here was showing growing strains that imperil its struggle to complete a revolution and jeopardize requests for foreign military aid and recognition. It has been less than 12 months since the BP disaster struck the Gulf Coast, and BP is already asking the U.S. regulators for permission to resume drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. This creates a very delicate situation for the Obama administration, as it seeks to balance safety concerns with a desire to increase domestic oil production. Just last week, the Justice Department confirmed that it was considering a range of civil and criminal penalties against BP, including potential manslaughter charges for the deaths of the rig workers as part of the ongoing investigation into the accident. At the same time, President Obama, in a major statement on energy policy last week, said the administration was seeking to reduce dependency on imported oil in part by increasing domestic production, both onshore and off. BP, which was a major oil producer before the Gulf crisis, could look to increase oil production once more. BP, which is seeking permission to continue drilling at 10 existing deep water production and deep development wells in the region, would drill in exchange for adhering to stricter safety and supervisory rules. An agreement could be reached within the next month, but would not include new drilling, the official said. Well, it definitely seems like temperatures have been rising and spring is finally making itself known. Today we had a high near 39 with a low of around 27. Tuesday should bring more sun with a high near 44 and a low of around 30. Come Tuesday night, we could see a chance of precipitation though. Wednesday will be mostly sunny with a high near 43 and a low of around 32. Thursday, we will have 20% chance of showers with a high near 52 and a low of around 34, with chances of rain increasing to 30%. Rain will remain in our forecast sadly Friday with a 30% chance of showers with a high of 43 and a low of around 29. Well, Jimmy's sports are finally getting underway as weather is starting to cooperate. Friday, the men's baseball team hit the road heading to Sioux City, Iowa, where they took on Mayville State in a doubleheader, where they picked up 2 wins, the first game winning 1-0 and the second 6-3. The softball team also played Friday heading to Black Hills, where they picked up 2 W's as well, winning 9-5 and 8-7. Saturday, the baseball team took on Mayville again, but had less success, losing both games 6-5 and 10-9. Softball also played Saturday again against Black Hills, losing both their games as well, 1-2 and 9-10. Well, Jamestown, that just about sums it up in the news. I'm JT Petsch. Tune in tomorrow as we once again connect the campus with the community. Good night, Jamestown.